The famous prancing horse is hard to not recognize, and it has been a long enjoyed status. How did the horse earn this crown? And what does the future hold for it? According to many sources, Enzo Ferrari was born in Modena, Italy on February 18, 1898, but the birth wasn't reported to the local registry office until February 20th due to a severe snowstorm. Alfredo Ferrari and Edelgisa Bisbini had 2 children together, and Enzo was Alfredo Jr.'s younger brother, who was also nicknamed Dino, a name that would show up in prominence later. Alfredo Sr., a Capri-born grocery store owner's son, established a metalworking company in the basement of his home in Modena that he moved into, likely due to a lack of economic opportunities on the small island. One of the most significant events in young Enzo Ferrari's life came at the age of 10 when he saw Felice Nazzaro win at Circuito di Bologna in 1908. This occasion motivated him to take up racing. His time would have to wait, however, as the Kingdom of Italy thrust headfirst into wars against the Ottoman Empire and into skirmishes with the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which would eventually lead to the country's entry into World War I. He was enlisted into the Italian Army's 3rd Mountain Artillery Regiment during World War I. The majority of the combat took place in northern Italy, and Enzo's family suffered even more sorrow when, in 1916, an epidemic of the Italian flu claimed the lives of both his father, Alfredo, and his older brother, Alfredo Jr. Ferrari, was forced to leave the Italian military after becoming quite ill during the 1918 flu epidemic, and the armed forces were looking to downsize either way as the war was coming to an end. The family business collapsed, and Enzo took to looking for jobs in the car industry following his recovery. In the end, he settled for a position as a test driver for CMN, an automaker in Milan that converted discarded truck bodies into small passenger vehicles after he unsuccessfully offered his skills to Fiat in Turin. Nevertheless, his competitive debut came in the 1919 Parma Poglio di Berceto hill climb race, where he finished 4th. He competed in the famous Targa Florio race in November 23rd of that same year, but was forced to withdraw after his car's fuel tank began to leak. He still finished 9th, which was considered a significant achievement at the time owing to the sheer number of cars that suffer mechanical failures, along with testing the limits of driver endurance. This experience quickly led him to land a job in respected Italian carmaker Alfa Romeo's embrace. Ferrari won his maiden Grand Prix at the Savio Circuit in Ravenna in 1923. His best season was in 1924 when he won 3 races, including the Coppa Acerbo in Pescara Ravenna and Polesine. He was a well-known name in the Italian motorsport circuits by this time, and it coincided with a desire to take on managerial aspects of racing, which would lead him to the next stage. In 1932, Ferrari chose to retire and devote his attention to managing and developing the factory, Alfa Race Cars. He eventually assembled a race team of superstar drivers, including Giuseppe Campari and Tazio Nuvolari. The decision was spurred on by the birth of his son Alfredo, who was named after his late older brother and even shared his nickname, Dino. This team, Scuderia Ferrari, served as Alfa Romeo's racing section. The Alfa Romeo P3 and the team's outstanding drivers, like Nuvolari, helped the team achieve great success. During this time, the prancing horse logo started to appear on his team's vehicles. Francesco Baracca, an Italian fighter pilot, had designed and worn the symbol. Owing to good relations between them, Baracca's mother gave Ferrari a necklace with the prancing horse on it before one of his flights during World War I. In 1918, an Austrian plane shot down and killed Baracca. Ferrari utilized the prancing horse to design the emblem that would become the renowned Ferrari Shield, in honor of his death while serving. Ferrari left Alfa in 1939 and started Auto Avia Costruzioni, a company that provided parts to other racing teams. following a disagreement with Alfa's managing director, Ugo Gobato. Ferrari managed to produce 2 cars for the 1940 Mille Miglia race, which were driven by Alberto Ascari and Lotario Rangoni, despite a contract clause prohibiting him from racing or designing automobiles for 4 years. Ferrari's factory was forced to start producing weapons and trucks for Mussolini's fascist government when World War II broke out. After the factory was bombed by the US Air Force, Ferrari moved from Modena to Maranello. He then decided to start producing automobiles after the war, which led to him establishing Ferrari SPA in 1947. Enzo made the choice to compete against the dominant Alfa Romeos and lead his own team. The team made its open-wheel debut in Turin in 1948, and its first victory came in Lago di Garda later that same year. The 1949 24 Hours of Le Mans saw the Ferrari 166mm driven by Luigi Chinetti and Peter Mitchell-Thomas win the first significant victory. The motorsport victories would rack up, but Enzo Ferrari's single-minded focus on racing prevented the company from making significant profits, and the first Ferrari produced for the consumer market only came in 1958 with the Ferrari 250 GT, a V12-powered Grand Tourer. Controversies associated with racing continued to pile up. Ferrari had an autocratic management style and was known for pitting drivers against one another to try to boost their performance. Some detractors contend that Ferrari purposefully increased the psychological strain on his drivers, fostering intra-team rivalries and a climate of fierce competition for the title of best driver. He thought that psychological pressure would produce better results for the drivers, said Ferrari team driver Tony Brooks. 8 Ferrari race car drivers lost their lives while operating them between 1955 and 1971. Ignazio Giunti, Peter Collins, Luigi Musso, Alfonso Di Portago, Wolfgang von Trips, Lorenzo Bandini, and Alberto Ascari. Ferrari was compared to the god Saturn, who consumed his own sons, in the Vatican newspaper L'Osservatore Romano, despite the fact that such a high death toll was not unusual in motor racing at the time. Eventually, Fiat purchased a 50% stake in Ferrari. An immediate outcome was an increase in the amount of investment capital that was available, and right away, construction on a factory expansion to move production of the Ferrari-powered Fiat Dino from Fiat's Turin plant began. Investment in new models at the top of the Ferrari range also increased. Fiat's involvement was necessary for new models to roll off the factory. Profit-making success followed with the likes of the 308 GTB, GTS, followed closely by the 328 and the 365 Daytona. A remarkable feat considering the fact that they rolled into sales in the 1970s, a time of oil shortage. The legend of the Ferrari V12 and V8 engines started from this period, owing to high performance and the sense of speed it provided drivers of those Ferraris. However, they were still seen as a middling Italian car brand, and the rich young executives still wanted Aston Martins, Jaguars, and Lamborghinis. Ferrari would storm onto the scene and solidify themselves as a cultural tour de force with the Ferrari Testarossa in 1984. Its sleek fighter jet-inspired design, alongside a powerful V12 engine, won everyone's hearts, and it became the best-selling Ferrari of the 20th century until the even more outrageous F40 came out. After its inclusion in the popular Miami Vice TV show, starring Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas, those same young executives wanted a Ferrari Testarossa the most, and Ferrari's brand image blew up overnight. The white Ferrari Testarossa that appeared regularly from Season 3 onwards was a character of its own. By this time, Enzo Ferrari's health was slowly failing, and while he still spoke to interviewers and generally gave directions to the company, it was soon going to be time for him to go. The last car he had the honor of overseeing was the aforementioned F40, the first car in history to break the 200-mile-per-hour barrier. Car and Driver called the car a mix of sheer terror and raw excitement. It was the personification of supercars. The F40 was as light as a feather, weighing only 1,100 kilograms, almost 40 kilograms less than the McLaren F1. Only 11 of its exterior body panels were made of aluminum, Kevlar, or carbon fiber. The only sign of standard comfort inside the cabin was the air conditioning, while the glass outside was made of lightweight Lexan, a clear polycarbonate. At the age of 90, Ferrari passed away in Maranello on August 14, 1988. Although no official cause of death was given, heart failure, which is common in elderly northern Italian men, is suspected. He could not have asked for a better send-off, and it was one that coincided with watching the arrival of the ultimate driving machine was beyond his wildest dreams. The 90s would continue to see excellent Ferrari driving machines, such as the Ferrari F50, the 355, and the 575. Ferrari introduced and called its fastest model at the time the Enzo, after, of course, the company's founder, Enzo Ferrari, from 2002 to 2004. As a continuation of the F40 and F50, it was originally going to be called the F60. But Ferrari was so happy with the end product of the design and engineering process that they decided to call it the Enzo, as the ultimate honor. Each of the 399 made, minus the 400th, which was donated to the Vatican for charity, had a price tag of $650,000 when it was first made available to devoted and frequent customers. Other than that, the mid-2000s would see the likes of the Ferrari 360 and F430, both stellar cars with a degree of reputation for being reliable. A silver Ferrari F430 Spider would make its appearance in a film reboot of Miami Vice starring Colin Farrell and Jamie Foxx as a cool throwback, even though it flopped. The FCA Group, formed by the union of the automobile producers Fiat and Chrysler, announced the division of its luxury brand, Ferrari, on October 29, 2014. The goal was to establish Ferrari as a standalone company, with a 2015 IPO to sell 10% of the company. After the market closed on October 20, 2015, Ferrari's initial public offering was officially priced at $52 per share. Ferrari was finally free of Fiat after a long time, making a rich history of close association coming to an end. Scuderia Ferrari went on to achieve accolades all this time, with its Formula One team presenting the well-known Michael Schumacher as one of the greatest race car drivers of all time, winning several F1 championships. It continues to stay at the cutting edge of F1 racing technology. The age of the electric vehicle is upon us, and Ferrari has not been immune. Ferrari's entire model lineup will be made up of 40% internal combustion engine, ICE models, and 60% electrified models by the end of 2026. The full electric and some full hybrid models will make up the remaining 60% of electrified models. And that's not all. By the end of 2030, the percentage of these models will change, with the entire Ferrari lineup consisting of 20% ICE models, 40% hybrid models, and 40% fully electric models, similar to the current full hybrid models like the SF90 and 296 GTB. Ferrari's racing division will contribute technology to the new hybrid vehicles, for the purpose of creating the electric motors for the new all-electric models. Ferrari has already established a brand new development facility in Maranello for electrified vehicles. Long-term plans may include in-house battery production, as the competitive advantages of having such an asset are becoming clearer. Finally, in September 2022, Ferrari will finally reveal the eagerly anticipated Purosangue, its first-ever SUV. A Ferrari SUV may seem out of place, but Lamborghini, a close rival, proved it could work with the Urus. Throughout the life of Purosangue, Ferrari has capped the shipments at 20% of its total production volume. Ferrari registered a valuation of $30 billion in March of 2020. The future forward is secure and bright for Enzo Ferrari's legacy to dominate another 100 years. Had you already heard of Ferrari's journey? And are there any other details that you would like to add to this video? Share it in the comments. And if you'd like to see more inspiring business videos, then make sure to check out our channel.